The Sixers are in turmoil. James Harden calls out Daryl Morey. The Eagles' 53-man roster is finally starting to take shape. We're going to go over that. And the Phillies were unable to take advantage of the schedule lightening up. That and much, much more when we are back in just 10 seconds. What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Phaithful Phanatics Show. I'm one half of your host, Dylan Davis. To my right, my faithful co-host, Scotty. We are live here on the DSM-Media Philadelphia YouTube channel. So, guys, if you're new to that channel, make sure you subscribe. We're also live on the Twitter and Facebook pages as well. But if you guys want to be interactive, like we said, make sure you are plugged into the YouTube channel like my man Hunter is right here. That's his best spot to get your thoughts, comments, and questions pulled up here with us, Scotty. But my man, it's been over a week. One last vacation out of the way. But how have you been doing?
I'm good, man. This is you mentioned it. We got a week off, which was great. I got a little bit of content mixed in there last week. If you guys didn't get a chance to check out those videos, be sure to check them out. We had our Turf Talk show go live just as normally scheduled, but happy to be back with the live stream. I know we don't do these as often anymore just because it simply works better when you upload videos to YouTube. You just get more interaction, get more eyes on the videos, and that's what it's all about. So we're trying to mix it up. We're trying to keep find the right
we'll always be live here on the
Phaithful
Phanatics Show. Don't you guys worry. But clips will be posted of the shows to be easier and more simple for you there. But look, man, we have a lot to get into. All three teams we're going to hit on today, but I want to start with the team that's kind of been in our rearview mirror for the last, month, 2 months or so. And that is the 76ers. And they're on the front page. They're making headlines again because James Harden, while I was away, while on his tour in China, right, decides to get on a microphone and call out Daryl Morey. And I know you went live and you did some things with this as well. So I'll throw it to you here in a minute. But, man, I am sick and tired of this dude, Scotty. I'm so stuck between hold him hostage, keep him here. If he sits out, fine him, whatever you got to do. Yeah. But you do not sell him for penny. You do not get rid of him for pennies on the dollar, right?
Yeah.
But I also don't want this dude anywhere near this franchise. I don't want him anywhere near the practice facility. I don't want him anywhere near Joel Embiid or Tyrese Maxey or any of the core here in Philadelphia. This dude, you have tweeted it out so many times, and it's 100% a fact. He's toxic, toxic, man. No, I agree with you 110%. Now, here's my thing, okay? A few things to lay out here on the table for James Harden because this dude is as absolutely delusional as they come, all right? Let's throw this out here. Apparently, there wasn't even a handshake deal in place by the latest article by ESPN. Last year, when James Harden took that pay cut for the 2 years to help bring in PJ Tucker and Montrezl Harrell and Daniel House and help bring his boys here to Philly, he took a pay cut, and we all praised him for that. But we all kind of knew in the back of our minds he's going to cash in a year or two for helping out Daryl Morey, his buddy, his friend, right?
Yeah.
Apparently, that wasn't even in place. That wasn't even agreed upon, okay? But let's say this. If there was a handshake deal in place, James Harden is still in the wrong. Do you think that just because you agreed to something 12, 13, 14 months ago, that you could show up, play like dog shit for what? For 8 of 11 playoff games, for 9 of 11 playoff games, be historically bad in 5 games out of 7 against the Boston Celtics, and still think that handshake deal is in place? You didn't hold up to your side of the bargain, my friend. If you would have been anything like regular season James Harden, you would have gotten that deal from Daryl Morey. It's a fact. He would still be here for 3 or 4 more years on that max deal.
Yeah.
You didn't hold up to your end of the bargain. You were a disaster in the postseason. B, why is no one else banging the table for James Harden. He's so mad. He's so disgruntled about Daryl Morey. And maybe that's because they were friends before all of this and they had this relationship. But he seems to think he's got this market out there where he's still a max contract player and send me here and I'm valued in LA. You opted in because Houston pivoted. Houston didn't want to give you that money anymore. You opted in because Philly wasn't going to give you that money anymore. You opted in because no one was going to give you that money anymore. Yep. And now the team that you think values so much and you're trying to force your way to won't even offer Terrence effing Mann for you in a package. Terrence Mann is a nice player. You and I would like him in a deal, right? He averages 8 points per game in his 4 years in the NBA. They won't even start there, James.
27 years old.
They won't even start there. You're not valued the way you think you are, and you're so upset at Daryl Morey. You should be upset with yourself because you didn't hold up to your side of the deal.
Yep.
You didn't play well enough. Fact. You're getting older. Fact. You have a bad injury history recently. Fact. And now you're trying to go on to, what's this, Scotty? Ooh. Houston, Brooklyn, Philly. Oh, 4 teams in less than 3 years. You're toxic. Fact. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, I think you hit the nails on the head there, man. That's exactly how I feel about James Harden right now.
And thank you.
And you can take it even a step further, man. He feels so betrayed by Daryl Morey, right? And mind you, I think, with this Daryl Morey situation, I think there is a chance that the ownership stepped in here and said, you're not giving like a max 4-year contract to this guy.
Really?
Like, we're not doing that. Like, there's very well a chance that could happen, but either way, what I would say about Daryl Morey's perspective is when it gets down to business and you're talking about the evaluation from the rest of the league versus your evaluation versus giving James Harden a max 3 to 4 year contract, Morey made a good business decision to not do that if that is the case.
Yeah.
And, Harden feels so betrayed right now, right, by us not getting a worthwhile offer from the LA Clippers for him and in return not willing to give him up.
You know what I feel betrayed by? Him shooting 2 for 11 in a playoff game. That's what I feel betrayed by.
What I was going to say is, he feels so betrayed, but you're the one that leaked the rumors about Houston on Christmas Day where I felt betrayed because I'm having a great Sixers season right now where, in a top 4 seeding in the East, and we have Harden rumors coming out about Houston Rockets that are not even
on a joyous holiday.
Right. Exactly. On our great holiday. I felt betrayed there. And then after the season, right after the postseason, you come out and you say, I'm not going to play for Doc Rivers. So I feel betrayed there, right? Because why are we trickling down and starting to demand things when you're not even guaranteed a roster spot right now? So I felt betrayed there. And then you take it a step further, Doc Rivers gets fired, and yet we still have this turmoil, right, even though we semi gave him what he wanted in a new coach, right? So it's all interesting to me, but it's also, when you look at James Harden going out in the public, there was people that said, commended him for going out and calling Daryl Morey a liar. That is unprofessional as hell to go out and do that to your boss. I don't care about handshake deals because at the end of the day, that's just what they are. They're handshake deals. They're not deals.
Right. And
so it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter how hurt you are, dude.
I cannot stress this enough. Even if there was a handshake deal in place, all he had to do was not look like how he did in the Boston series.
Exactly. Exactly, man. You look like the worst player on the court in 4 of 7 games in that series? 5 of 7 games in that series?
He had the 18 and 11 game or whatever in game 5 when they won in Boston.
Game 4 was this big game. Game 5, he had a decent game. And then the other 4 games in that series, he shit the bed. So when you look at that basement low, you can't afford to give this guy $40 million a year.
He was also very, very bad against Brooklyn.
And also the passing went down, right? That was the big thing with Harden this year. He gets guys open, he gets Embiid, easy looks. That stopped in the playoffs, right? Whether that's the defense changing or him.
You, man. Listen,
what I wanted to say though, what the last thing I wanted to mention here was, because James Harden, this situation, it's over. Like, he's not playing in this city again. He might not play in the NBA again, depending how he goes about this. But when I'm looking at the rest of this team, and I'm looking at Joel Embiid, what I need from Joel Embiid
I'm
is
getting annoyed by Joel too, but I'll get to him.
I need to understand if he is still in James Harden's corner, why?
Right.
Why are you in this man's corner? And to that point, what I need Joel Embiid to do right now is, with all of these rumors that are swirling, all of these knocks on the door for Joel Embiid, you keep hearing the stuff about the New York Knicks and the Miami Heat, as if we would fucking trade Joel Embiid to those two teams. I mean, get a grip. It's not like we don't have control of the situation. We are not trading him to the Knicks or the Heat. We're not trading him in conference.
Direct competitor in the Eastern Conference.
Come out and say that you're not demanding a trade. Like, come out and say it and end that
with
noise.
the immaturity.
That's all you have to do, Joel Embiid, in order for us to have not even a peaceful season, but a semi-peaceful season. Just come out and say you're not demanding a trade. You're going to see what we get out of this season. You're going to see what we have in max and see what we can do with our max contract slots next year. That's all that has to happen, right? For this noise to settle down a little bit. Harden is gone. So that ship is sailed. There's no need to beat around the bush around the James Harden. It's over.
It's his doing. It's his fault. It's not ownership's fault. It's not. Listen, the one thing I did want to throw in here real quick. Is Daryl Morey 110% blameless in this situation? No, I highly, highly doubt that. What I'm saying is my anger, my focus goes to the guy I watch on the court every night and seeing how he didn't hold up to his side of things by playing so poorly and now wants to bitch and cry and moan and throw this organization under the bus. I agree with this. Your loyalty should rely to the people paying you millions and millions of dollars, not this dude that's forcing his way out of the city, right? Like, Joe, that's the point.
Pat Beverly thought it was funny, that James Harden is coming out publicly and saying it. Like, it's not funny, dude. Like, it's making a mess of the team that you're currently on.
And this is the last thing. I want to pivot right back and then we'll move on. But the Joel thing, I said he's annoying me, man. Yeah. And you and I did the show weeks back when he went on that live podcast and made the comment of he just wants to win here or anywhere else, and we talked about his immaturity and if he's trolling versus just not having, the nuts to stand up and stand behind what he said with taking the heat, right?
Yeah.
Just stop, man. Stop. Removing Philadelphia from you. I haven't checked his bio. No idea if it's changed back. Remove processing, remove Philadelphia tag from his location in his Twitter bio. It's trolling.
The thing on Trey Turner night, right? When Philadelphia
tweeting LOL 20 seconds after Trey Turner gets a standing ovation in Philadelphia. Is that a coincidence? Or was that a little shot at Philadelphia fans?
But then talks about the GOAT Messi being in our city, quote unquote, our city, right? When Messi comes to Philadelphia, it's confusing, man. And that's what this team is as a whole. I don't know where their loyalties lie. And it doesn't seem like there's a ton of loyalty within the team at all, right?
No. I'm at the point where Tyrese Maxey is now the golden boy for me, like at this very second. Until I hear Joel Embiid come out and publicly say so. He loves Twitter, apparently.
Yeah.
Go out and put out a statement on Twitter.
Put something out there, man.
Put in your notes, do whatever. Where do you stand?
Right.
Is basically what I'm asking, right? Because I get not wanting to fracture the relationship with James Harden. He's already done that.
Yeah,
he's done that.
It's over.
How about, where was James Harden on Joel Embiid's wedding night?
At a club.
Eating cheeseburgers in a club.
I mean,
seems like a good friend.
Nobody clubs more than James Harden.
He got you that watch for your MVP award, though. Seems like a good.
It's weird, man. It's weird energy, and the thing with Tyrese Maxey, even how much of a mess this organization is. He's not under contract after next season, so that's another thing to look forward to. But no, man, I did want to ask you before we move on.
Yeah,
is there any part of you that feels like maybe it would be best to just fire Daryl Morey and part ways with both of these guys?
Listen. Possibly because Daryl, it's not. We can't sugarcoat things. It's not like Daryl has held up to his side of things over the last 2 or 3 years as well. We still haven't gotten past the second round. There's still roster construction issues each and every year. He's giving out some bad deals. Why is Montrezl Harrell back? Why was the first move you made last season to give Furkan Korkmaz a 3-year deal and waste a bench spot, right? It doesn't make a lot of sense. But to be fair, up until this point, Doc Rivers was already here. That wasn't Daryl Morey's hiring. He's out. He brought in a new coaching staff, brought in Nick Nurse. See what happens this season. And I feel like if you remove Morey now, I'd give him one more year to get past the second round. If you remove Morey now, it validates James Harden.
Fair.
It almost like you're blaming Daryl Morey when you're more mad at when you're more upset with James Harden in my eyes. I'm not saying he's blameless. I'm not saying he's been great since he's been here in Philly, but I would give him one more year with a coach he selected, with a roster he can put together, and see what happens, right?
Yeah, I do agree with that. I do agree with it. It's just something that's crossed my mind, but I do agree with. And that's the thing with the Sixers front office that is also confusing about this team. It's like if they let go of Daryl Morey,
issue as well, man.
It does, yeah. Ownership, it starts at the top, but then even as it trickles down, if you get rid of Daryl Morey, is Elton Brand still in the building? Because somehow he's just been chilling the last few years, even after all the mistakes he's made. Right. So it's a mess, man. But we had to address it here today, getting you back and getting your thoughts on it. But this team is a mess, man, and I'm so happy that Eagles football is here, so I can, really, really put it on the back burner. And that's the other annoying thing about this. Keep taking attention away from the good stuff that's going on around us, right? And we have to pay attention to all this toxicity, this drama.
It's just funny because this team was this close to being at the peak of Philadelphia fandom. They were 5 minutes away at the Wells Fargo Center from finally breaking through to the conference finals, beating the Boston Celtics. They were this close to getting over that hump and getting everybody on board, and they brought you right back down the earth, and now they're burning this shit to the ground. The last thing I'll say about James Harden, man, and I really don't want to give this dude any more attention, is I just can't stop laughing at the fact that he opted in, and these comments only validate what I was thinking. You know what's happening right now? You know why he's calling out Daryl Morey and making it look it's Philly this, it's Morey this? Because he knew what he wasn't going to get on the market, and he would look bad.
Yeah.
Now it's
embarrassing.
Their fault. It's their fault.
Yeah. It's embarrassing.
I mean? By calling out Daryl Morey, he's a bad businessman. He's a bad friend. I'll never play for him or the Sixers again. It's their fault. Whereas if he would have hit the market and, James Harden's still hanging around in free agency, why doesn't anyone want James Harden? Then all of a sudden he takes much less from a max to go to LA. Now it's embarrassing for him,
bro,
because he got it wrong.
It's so funny, man. The Harden stands, they'll be on Twitter, X.
They're disgusting. Where does that loyalty come from? Where does that loyalty come from?
They'll tell you what was Harden supposed to do. Nobody in free agency had money. Houston had the money. They gave it to someone else. They literally paid Fred VanVleet more than what James Harden is making right now. They paid Fred VanVleet $40 million per year. They had the money. They went a different direction. Spurs had the money. They get Victor Wembanyama. You don't think that they would like to have a nice veteran star come in there and mentor their young phenom rookie? But James Harden is not that guy. He's a toxic asset. I don't want this guy around my young guys. I don't want him around Maxey anymore. He's a toxic asset, man. Yep. That was my one takeaway from this whole situation about James Harden. Why doesn't he have any kids or a wife or a family? No, he's just out at the strip clubs eating wings and burgers and partying with PJ Tucker, who also doesn't have any.
With that lifestyle, man, but it is a funny. It
crazy.
It is a
not
funny
my business though. I'm kidding, but
it is a funny point, man. But yeah, Pop would never coach him, not in a million years, and. I can't take much more of this, dude. It's funny when he's here, you put these blinders on for him. You support the team, and he's good for the team, and he's a big time name. And the first game he was here in Milwaukee, but didn't play after the trade deadline. And remember, he's on the bench hyping up Tyrese Maxey, calling him over, and then Tyrese Maxey
Where
goes
did
on
that
the
go?
We're sitting here like, wow, look at the mentor he's going to be. He takes a pay cut. Wow, look at the kind of teammate he was. It was Kyrie's fault. It was Kevin Durant's fault. It was never James Harden. We got rid of Ben Simmons for this guy.
So hard.
And now we're sitting here like, this dude's toxic as shit.
He played us. Do you remember what he said in that press conference when he actually re-signed the deal? He re-signed with the Sixers. He said, Philadelphia is where I always wanted to be. Like, he really played us, bro.
Yeah.
I can't believe it, but here we are.
It's all right. We'll see what happens as the weeks and months go on as we get into camp in September and see what the Sixers decide to do from there. See what Harden decides to do when he shows up, if he shows up, and then just hit him in the pockets where he loves the most, apparently.
Exactly.
Let's move on, man. We'll touch on the Phillies quick first, and then we'll get into the Eagles because we're not gonna stick around on the Phillies too much here. While I was away the last week and a half or so, they weren't able to take advantage of an easy schedule. They lost the Twins series at home. They split with the Blue Jays, and now they lose a series on the road against the Nationals, obviously wrapping things up in Williamsport last night, which was cool, but didn't get the job done. They lost 4-3, scored 3 runs in the top of the 9th. Wasn't good enough. They blow a 6-1 lead with Michael Lorenzen on the mound on Friday night. If that doesn't happen, last night doesn't really matter all that much when you win the series. But you did blow that lead, and then you didn't take advantage with Zach Wheeler on the mound. The lineup's been up and down. A lot of inconsistency over the last week or so. The first Blue Jays game, get your ass handed to you. Second Blue Jays game, you beat the shit out of them.
Yeah.
You blow a 6-1 lead versus the Nationals. You come back and Trey Turner hits 2 home runs in 1 inning and you score 8 runs in an inning. You can't score for 8 innings, but you score 3 runs with 2 outs in the 9th inning. It's not making a lot of sense with this team right now, man. But listen, that's not to say that things are starting to go south, because they're not. They still hold the first wild card, spot by 2.5 right now, I believe. The Giants are right on their doorstep. The Reds, the Cubs, and the Marlins are right there as well. But it's just a shame because with these last couple of series, they had a great opportunity to take advantage and extend their lead over that first wild card spot in the standings, and they weren't able to do so. So throw it to you, man. I don't know.
I feel you. It's one of those things, man, where this has been one of the better teams in baseball for the last 3 months.
Yeah.
You know, they've been one of the better teams in baseball aside from maybe the Braves and a few others. And as of late, they just not looked, it almost looks like we just need to get to the postseason. That's kind of what it feels like. Maybe they're going through like a little bit of a down moment where you just kind of can't get up for these games in a sense, right? But there's no excuse going into the next series, right, against the Giants. Like, this is your chance to take full grasp of this wild card spot and bury them further. It's not going to end the race by any means, but you can bury the Giants a little bit below you if you can just win this series. So there should be no lack of motivation. You're going against Gabe Kapler. Like, there should be no lack there. But what I wanted to ask you, looking at last night's lineup and just trying to keep it on a, just kind of trying to keep it moving, right? Move past those dismal series that we just kind of blew up and gave up. But looking at Trey Turner in the 2-hole and kind of moving Bohm out of that, interesting with the way Bohm had been playing lately, the way Trey had been playing lately. But I do get it from a sense of Bohm is an RBI machine. So, like, I do get it from that sense, and Trey has been playing a lot better. But are you comfortable with that move in this moment right now when they are kind of in a good rhythm? At least those two are in a good rhythm.
Yeah, it's weird, right? Because the vision, I guess, when you moved Trey out of the 2-hole and moved him back in the order when he was struggling, was always to get him right, was to get his mind right, was to get his play back to that level, because he is the $300 million man, and he is the best shortstop in baseball when he's going right, and he should be at the top of this order. But it just feels like when you moved Bohm up to the 2-hole, he excelled just as much as Trey did being knocked down in the order.
Yeah.
If Trey started to heat up and started to get right, but Bohm was struggling in the 2, it would have been an easy switch. Trey got comfortable in the 6 or 7 hole, and Bohm was excelling in the 2-hole.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have done it yet. Not
Yeah.
in that, especially like just weird, man. Not
They're
only
not
on the
playing
road, but
great
in
right now.
Williamsport, like just in that situation. So
Yeah.
I wouldn't have done it in that moment. And I don't know what the answer is because I love Bohm in the 2-hole right now. I said I wouldn't have done it. You're not moving Bryce out of the 3-hole. And you know how I feel about Schwarber leading off for this team.
Yeah.
So where is Trey going, even if he's right when these other guys are playing that way? To me, it would almost have to be if he's comfortable batting 6th right now, leave him at the 6-hole. That's a weapon down in the order. And just see how Bohm continues to play in the 2-hole. If Bohm starts to struggle and Trey's still hitting the ball well, make that simple switch.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't have done it right then and there when they were both playing so well in their respective spots, both being comfortable. I would have left it alone.
Yeah, no, that's kind of how I felt as well. You're getting the right Trey, the right version of Trey Turner right now. So why, move those things around yet? Wait until you're getting it consistently, on a game-to-game basis, and then maybe you can consider moving Trey up, and maybe you don't have to move him to number 2, right? Maybe you can just move him up a few slots. So just to get him a few more bats. Michael Lorenzen, man, how do we feel about that? That was kind of a come back to earth moment, I guess, with him, right?
Yeah, it's a punch. It's a punch below the belt, right? Because it's the same team. It's the same exact team.
So bad, right?
I'm so confused how we can one night throw a no-hitter against this lineup, and then the very next outing, 6-7 days later, you blow a 6-1 lead against the very same lineup. It's confusing. I'm not, upset or disappointed about Lorenzen. I don't think that. Remember how we were having that conversation of, he's in the. I still think he's a top 3 arm in this rotation. It was just a bad outing for him, and all pitchers have. Wheeler got lit up in the top of in the bottom of the first last night. Gave up 4 runs to that same Nationals lineup. He struggles against them as well, but it really was confusing. Like it wasn't like he threw a no hitter against the Nationals and then played the Braves and blew a 6-1 lead. You threw a no-hitter against the Nationals and then blew a 5-run lead against the Nationals.
Yeah,
a week later.
So weird.
Not 2 months later, your very next start. It was very, very strange to see, man. That's the loss that hurt the most throughout, the last week or so.
This last few games span. Yeah,
right. Because it's I know the Nationals are playing better baseball the last couple of weeks. I get that. The broadcast was talking about it last night, which, by the way, the ESPN broadcast is something awful. It is bad. Had to throw that out there. But they're playing better ball, but the Phillies end the season series against the Nats 7-6. And I saw an interesting stat this morning. I think it was by Anthony Sant. I'll have to get it right. I'll have to bring it up later. But so they finished the series 7-6 against the Nationals. In the 7 wins, the Phillies have won by a combined 49 runs in the 7 wins, or 46 runs, something like that. In the combined 6 losses, they've lost by 6 total runs. So they're either kicking the dog shit out of the Washington Nationals.
I think that makes sense.
Or losing a 1-run game every night out versus this team. That's, what we call that? Inconsistency.
Yep.
That's where I need to see this team start to get back on track, man, because the last week it's feeling like that. One night the pitching's going to be there, but the bats aren't going to show up for you.
Yeah.
One night the lineup's going to go off, but here comes the bad night on the mound, right? They're not putting it all together right now. They're not playing great baseball. Obviously, once September hits, that's when you really want to start to see them take shape and hit their stride. So you got another few weeks until that happens, but you do not want to lose grasp of this wild card spot. Obviously, the goal is just to get in. I'll take the 3rd wild card spot again, but I would love, love, love to have that first wild card spot, man. And that should be the goal for them right now. So they got to get their act right. Like you said, they have the Giants. They're home, I believe, correct?
I was actually just looking at the schedule now, and they actually have 3 series in a row at home again, right? So a 9-game stretch where they're going to be playing at CBP against the Giants. You got 3 against the Giants, 3 against the Cardinals, and 3 against the Angels. So You win 2 of 3 in all of those series. It looks like a great month at the end of the month. And why not do it at home, right? You want to turn the page and start going in the right direction. Now is the time, man.
No,
so
I agree with you.
No excuses.
I agree with you, man. Let's move on here. We'll obviously be talking more Phillies on Wednesday and Friday as well, but let's move on to the Eagles, wrapping up this show here. The 53-man roster is starting to take shape. One more preseason game, Scotty. One more preseason game, and then we are full tilt heading towards week 1 of the regular season, and they can start to get ready for the New England Patriots. But with that said, there's been some injuries over the first 2 preseason games for the Eagles, losing Zach McPherson, losing Sean Bradley, 2 key special team pieces, 2 depth pieces at their respective positions where maybe they could fight for a backup spot and get a little bit of playing time. Their seasons are cut short. But all in all, I feel like a lot of positives. Yeah. I feel everything I've read from preseason to camp reports to open practices to joint practices with the Browns, I've seen a lot of positive, man. Jalen Hurts seems to be steady Eddie, right? The wide receivers, Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, A.J. Brown seem to be thriving. I've heard a lot of great things about DeAndre Swift, but a lot of the positives are coming from the defensive side of the ball, man. Yeah. And a lot of the positives are coming from younger guys. So when we're looking at this 53-man roster, maybe later on in the week, we can really start to break down our predictions before the final report comes out. But one room that's going to be stacked simply because they need depth, simply because 3 or 4 guys could be on the field at all times at the position. Some of them are going to play special teams. It is that cornerback room. And we've talked about this for a while. They recently cut Greedy Williams. I was surprised by that. But hearing how high they are on Josh Jobe, hearing how high they are and how well Eli Ricks has played in the preseason so far, they might be okay at that position room. Keely Ringo, they might be okay, man. So cornerback room, how many do you think we're going to hold?
Yeah, so at first I was going to go with 7. And I thought they would go with 7, but with the Zach McPherson injury, it kind of shakes that up a little bit. I don't know if they're going to be able to do that, especially with cutting Greedy on top of that. So I don't know if that means, that they keep a guy like Mekhi Gardner or something like that, right? Or a Josiah Scott. Maybe you keep him to fulfill that backup slot position behind Avonte Maddox. I don't know if that's a route they would go, but I think what the Zach McPherson injury does for some of these guys, specifically Jobe and Eli Ricks, I think these guys are 2 guys that were kind of on the bubble. You don't really know if they're going to make the team. I think those guys make the team now. And, you look at it from that perspective. You have Bradbury, you have Slay. Obviously, those are your starters. Avante's your starting slot. Then you have Ringo, who's going to be a backup outside corner, I would imagine. But they also mentioned he can play a little bit of safety. So I think that's why he's a lock to make this team. Jobe has looked great. The reports about him have been great. And then Eli Ricks, as you mentioned, has been one of the more impressive guys in both of the preseason games. So I think, you have 6 right there that I named. Do you keep anybody else on top of that? Like I said, maybe it's a Josiah Scott that you keep it with that group. But I don't know. You could go 6 and maybe keep an extra safety. I don't know how much they like Justin Evans, because it feels like the safety room is kind of solidified with Edmonds, Reed, Sidney, and Kayvon. But if you decide you want to keep Justin Evans, maybe keep an extra safety rather than keep an extra corner. I can understand that as well. But I feel like the main takeaway for me over the first 2 games is that Jobe and Ricks, barring some tumultuous, miserable outing in the 3rd preseason game, I think these guys are going to make the team here. Zach McPherson kind of opens that up because I think Jobe and Ricks, when you look at the corner position, I would value them even just based off the reports and what I've seen in preseason. I would value them over Zach McPherson. But where McPherson gets in is on special teams. That's where he makes his difference. So that's why he was definitely a lock for me there.
Right, he was an NFC player, the special teams player of the week before. So there's the Eagles special teams as of right now could take a hit. But when you're looking at this cornerback room, I agree with you. And those 2 guys are the standouts, right? Slay, Bradbury, Maddox don't even need to play, right? Keely Ringo was the 4th round pick out of Georgia, highly recruited.
Yeah.
Highly sought after coming out of this draft, and he hasn't disappointed so far. And the fact that, like you mentioned, that he's big enough and has already added enough muscle to where they can use him in a hybrid position kind of between safety and corner is big for them. But it's funny, man. Normally you get at least one or two camp standouts every year, right?
Yeah.
But normally, at least here in Philadelphia, those guys are coming on the offensive side of the ball, right? The sexier side of the ball where guys can flash and stand out more. And it's easier with no pads on and when you're in t-shirt and shorts to show off at a wide receiver or running back position, right?
Yeah.
You're getting it from the corner room. And I literally, before we went live here, I saw a TikTok posted by the Eagles social media team of their joint practice with the Cleveland Browns. And it's Smitty and them mic'd up, talking up Josh Jobe while he's on the field.
I did see that.
Looking for a pick. And then the very next play, he gets a pick in the end zone, and they all go swarming to him and running on the field and cheering. There's always a younger guy that gets the backing from the team, right? That gets the support from the guys. And it seems to be Josh Jobe's year to do that. But Eli Ricks is having a hell of a camp in preseason as well.
Yeah.
Undrafted free agent. I saw a lot of reports where if he came out next year, people thought he could have been a first or second round pick, or if it would have been last year before injury. I forget what the issue is with Eli Ricks, but he's a long body talented corner who can get after the ball.
He was the number 1 rated DB coming out of week 1 of the preseason. So that's something to think. He had to pick 6 in the first preseason game, so that would explain it. But nonetheless, as you mentioned, it looks like these guys are not only, kind of depth fillers, but they can make plays. And I think that's the big thing, right? Like, not only can they come in and do their job, but they may be able to make making differences in the game. And that's something that we just haven't had in the DB room of late, man. These last few years, you think back to those Brian Dawkins and like Troy Vincent type of secondaries back in the day. And it's like, we just have not had that corner strength, the Lito Shepherd and Sheldon Browns of the world.
Yeah.
Yep. So now we are stacking up in the right positions, man. And the other thing to look at here, obviously we could talk about the linebackers as well, maybe some safety talk here, but that D line, man, it just stays stacked up. It stays stacked up to the point where you have to like make decisions. Like, it is crazy thinking back to last season where, the defensive tackle position, we had to go out and sign Linval Joseph and Ndamukong Suh mid-season. Yep. You look at that room right now, and it just doesn't even look like I don't even see how either of those guys would fit into this rotation.
No, so someone should tell that. Someone should tell that to the woman on ESPN who decided to bring up the fact that the Eagles lost 7 starters on defense.
This new Amber chick. I mean, like, I don't know, man. I don't know what ESPN be doing. Like, I don't know if they just funnel like something into these people's ears, like say something about Phillies.
Right, are they reading off a teleprompter of shit just to get fan bases riled up? Because I'm so like, you're on the worldwide leader of sports. If these are their own opinions, if these are their own thoughts, I'm so confused how you just don't do enough research to understand what the F you're talking about on live television.
Yeah.
They lost 7 starters. No, they didn't. Look at the roster now compared to last year. No, they lost it. Listen, you could go down the list, right? CJ Gardner-Johnson, Marcus Epps, Javon Hargrave,
2 linebackers.
TJ Edwards and Kazir White, right? Yeah. Then Linval Joseph, Ndamukong Suh. You get the 7
those starters, though. Like, those aren't starters.
Not only not starters, but Nolan Smith, Jalen Carter,
quality replacements.
Just go down and down and down the list.
Yeah,
right. They're almost better, dude. So that made me laugh. You mentioned Brian Dawkins, and you mentioned those hard-hitting secondaries we had in the early 2000s.
I know where you're going.
Sidney Brown is going to have a quality fan base here in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
That dude gets downhill. That dude finds the ball. and that dude will rock your shit.
Yeah.
He thumps, dude. Sidney Brown is going to have a couple jerseys out in the stands in green this year at Lincoln Financial Field. What have you saw out of him so far in camp, in preseason that you've loved? Do you think, obviously, maybe he's not starting week 1, but the way they rotate these guys on defense, he's definitely going to have a role where he's on the field, right?
Yeah, he would be like my sub linebacker type of guy, man. And I say that I'm not against starting him either, because I think what I've seen from him is supreme potential, what he could be. And I think when you look at how the season kind of plays out and you look at the schedule, if you feel that he could turn into the quality starter that you want at safety opposite of Reed Blankenship, I think you just do it from the jump, man, because you look at the beginning of the season, those first like 3 to 4 games, those are the games where you want to get any type of rookie behavior out of the way. And you want to get them out on the field, get their snaps in, and learn on the fly. Because
especially with the way the schedule's set up.
Exactly. Once you get to the Jets, the Dolphins of the world, and then so on into the Chiefs and the Bills and all that whole, tumultuous part of the schedule, you want those guys to be acclimated. You don't want to be throwing them into the fire against those guys once you figure it out that the other guy wasn't ready to start. If you feel that Sidney Brown has that potential in him, I say you throw him into the fire week 1, let him start opposite of Reed Blankenship and see what you got there. Because the idea of those two, man, I know Reed Blankenship, he's somewhat of a wild card. He looked good in spurts.
I do want to say, not to cut you off, I do want to say, I've been a doubter. He's a question mark. He's a wild card, like you said.
You're hearing great things.
Always so confused about where people are getting so hype about him after seeing him so little last year. I'm going to take my doubter cap off, and I'm going to give this dude the benefit of the doubt, because I've only heard fantastic things all camp long about this dude and how he literally just solidified as the number one.
Exactly. For him to not have to play in preseason as an undrafted free agent last year, that speaks for itself to me.
Now, maybe that speaks to how bad the rest of the room is, but it also speaks to how well he's shown up so far in camp.
We've seen Terrell Edmonds out there in the preseason, but we have not seen Reed Blankenship. And I think that speaks to his place. But like you said, it could be just the lack in the safety room. But I love the idea, because Reed can also lay the wood on somebody. And then you have Sidney Brown back there that can lay it. And I love the way Sidney Brown talks. I love what he's saying, right? He's talking about he wants people to fear him when he's coming out of that safety spot. And that's what I like to hear, man. But the Eagles run a 3 safety type of scheme.
You know what's cool about that?
There's plenty of room to get him in.
You know what's cool about that? That's exactly the message Sean Desai threw out there when he first came here to Philadelphia. We want people to feel us. We want to emulate what Philadelphia is out on that football field. And it's interesting because maybe that's Sidney Brown's own thought. Maybe he's been saying that for the last 4 years through he wants people.
Yeah, maybe that's just the way he plays.
Or the message the defensive coordinator is sending is already getting through and translating to this team, and they're bought in, and he's relaying that message that his coach is throwing out there. So that's pretty cool, man. Other real quick little tidbits. Obviously, Nolan Smith shining, Jalen Carter shining.
Yeah,
right. I mean, that dude is. Oh, Scotty, you have no. That might be the next Kelly Green jersey purchase. When it comes, it really might be, dude. First play, first snap of his NFL career, live action, just completely discards somebody and just throws this guard to the side and gets pressure inside on the quarterback up the gut and forces a play. He's a game wrecker. Listen, I'm not going to get all excited about one play in the first game of the preseason, but it's not that. It's the expectations, what we already have coming out of the draft, coming through camp, and then the first little hint you get to see him in real time, he shows up like that. it just gives you a taste of what's to come in the regular season. It feels like, doesn't it?
Yeah. He has defensive rookie of the year potential, man. And you're
Yeah.
talking about a guy from the defensive tackle spot. Like, that's not very common, right? Where he's going to come in, get acclimated, and be able to get after the quarterback, because that's what wins you defensive rookie of the year. You have to get sacks, right? Like, you have to get the eye-popping numbers to get that attention. And I think he's the caliber player that can do it, man. And I think there is an extra drive in him, right? With all the doubt and all the hate that came towards him because of a car accident, man. Like, I get it. I get it. It's reckless off the field. It's character question marks, but it didn't need to leak into his talent evaluation. And I think that's where NFL teams, NFL GMs, that's where they effed up, man, because they let that, character concern off the field leak into their evaluation of the talent. And he very well may be the best player to come out of this draft. And there will be people out there that say we're crazy for saying, well, the talent evaluators said it before he had that incident.
Everybody, almost everybody.
Like, it was being said. So don't act like we're sitting here crazy. And I think he has an extra drive in him to be great, just because the Eagles, not only did they draft him in the first round and take that risk, they traded up to draft him. They traded draft compensation to make sure that they locked in and got Jalen Carter. And for that, I think he's going to be ultimately grateful to the franchise. It's where he wanted to be. He has the right people around him to learn from. And you talk about just getting acclimated with a leader like Nakobe Dean. He's comfortable in this defense, man. And I think that's the difference. He's going to be able to come in and affect the game immediately.
Have you seen all the comments made by other guys, by Jason Kelce, by Lane Johnson, by Fletcher Cox, by Brett, about Jalen Carter so far? Like, I get it. It's their team, it's the young buck. They're always going to talk you up, but not to that extent. Like, I don't think Jason Kelce, being the Hall of Fame, future Hall of Fame center that he is going to come out and just put his stamp of approval on a guy simply because he's his teammate. Why didn't he do that for a Milton Williams, who wasn't a first-round pick, but a Milton Williams who played and was rotated into this defensive line? Why didn't he do that for other guys? No, he's doing it for this dude because he's that much of a freak, strong athlete. Defensive line's always going to be there. The last thing I would say, man, and I love the direction of this conversation, because we're looking at what's been done through preseason and these position battles, and we've really only talked about the defense, which is getting me even more excited for the regular season, because the offense is just assumed. And maybe that's a mistake by us. Maybe there's some hiccups early on in the season, but we know what this offense should look like full gear, fully healthy, right? They should be possibly the best offense in all of the National Football League, definitely top 3, right? The defense was the question mark. We last saw them in the Super Bowl, knocking off the field. They did lose some starters. They're filling them with younger pieces, new defensive coordinator. But all of these positives are coming from that side of the ball.
Yeah.
So if these two units, offense and defense, can meet and mesh the way it seems like they can, they're running away with the NFC. And I'll say that to you right now. I don't care. August 21st, I do not care.
You talked about the offense a little bit there. If there's any concern, man, it's hard for me to have a concern outside of injuries for the offense. Like, you're talking about another year in with Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown connection, another year of Smitty just naturally getting better. He's a young man. He's naturally getting better. You talk about Quez. He can only get better from last year, right? You talk about adding DeAndre Swift to the running back room. It can only get better because of his receiving capabilities. And I think a big facet of this offense that kind of it wasn't part of the offense last year, because it kind of just didn't have the skill set, the type of players that you would want to have to do it. But I think the dump off game is going to be significant for this team this year, man. Just easy dump offs for Jalen Hurts to DeAndre Swift to Dallas Goedert, and it turns into big chunk plays. I think that underneath that kind of dump off security blanket type of setting for the offense wasn't really there. And I think you'll see Jalen Hurts decide to make some of those decisions throughout the game more often. But I do agree with you regarding the defense, man. That is the question mark. That is
Right.
where you lost most of the starters
Right.
that Amber's talking about on First Take, right? Or Get Up, whichever show
That's where
she's
you
on.
have your weaker position
Yeah.
groups, right? Your safety, your linebacker rooms.
I do have one thing I
Yeah.
wanted to throw to you, and it's not about the defense. So if you have something else to say there, or if you
Well,
wanted to say something about the offense, I'll throw it to you after.
Yeah, so I was just going. You brought up the running back
Yeah.
room, and you brought up the pass catching ability, and we've heard all the things about DeAndre Swift and how Nick Sirianni is using him early in camp, and I love it, right?
Yeah.
But the other thing is, and don't get me wrong, Miles Sanders was great last season. Got over 1,000 yards, right? He was fantastic last season. But we've always, and he has big playability, excuse me. But we've always had our concerns about Miles Sanders hitting a hole or bouncing it outside when things aren't there, when that gaping hole doesn't open up. DeAndre Swift's very first carry in an Eagles uniform was up and a bounce to the outside. That cut was gross.
Yeah.
And then he just hits the hole on the outside, gets up, bang. Penny, you've seen it a couple times with him. Gainwell, it's a different style of running back than we've had in the past. That's another level of excitement I have as well, where you're already behind the best offensive line in football, but now I'm going to give you an explosive running back who doesn't need the C's to part to find the hole, who can have the vision and the quickness to bounce and cut that outside and make something out of nothing. Not that Miles Sanders never did it. It was definitely not a strong suit of Miles Sanders.
Yeah. And it's truly a beautiful balance, right? If they do ultimately decide to keep Rashad Penny, I know that's a conversation that's been had. I would just keep Rashad Penny personally. You keep Gainwell, Swift, Penny, and Scott.
I don't get the Rashad Penny shoved down. Like people want to shove him off the roster, want to shove him down the depth chart. I'm confused. I don't
get it either. I don't know.
I am confused. If he's healthy, what we've seen out of him in Seattle, I don't understand how there's not room for him to get on the field here in Philadelphia.
Yeah. I there's been a lot of talk about Trey Sermon, and I get it. He's got an extra year left on his contract. He does help in special teams. I think that's another difference that was pointed out. But I don't know. Penny's just too good. There's too much of a...
There's too much upside.
Upside. That's the exact word I was looking for there. I was going to say ceiling, but upside is the word I was looking for. There's too much of an upside with Rashad Penny behind this offensive line to just let that walk out of the door. And that's the balance that I'm talking about, because you have Rashad Penny who can be your LeGarrette Blount of the group. Yeah. Then you have Gainwell who can be your Corey Clement. Yeah. And then you have Swift who is your Ajayi, can do a little bit of everything. So I think keeping the balance there is key going forward. I don't understand that either. But I did want to ask you, because this guy, James Jones, had the nerve. We were talking about ESPN earlier. This guy, James Jones, man. And you know me. Like, we were on Turf Talk the week before we recorded Turf Talk, NFC North. I fucking picked the Bears to win the division. And mind you, I'm throwing shit in the wall blindly, like, with that division. And at the end of the day. So I've given Justin Fields the props, right? I'm giving the Bears the benefit of the doubt. But then this guy goes on TV and is talking about I saw a Bears account say James Jones put LaShawn McCoy in his place when LaShawn McCoy called Justin Fields a poor man's Jalen Hurts. And so now it's sparked this conversation that Justin Fields is now a more talented quarterback than Jalen Hurts. Justin Fields is going to ascend past Jalen Hurts specifically, right? Not these other quarterbacks, not Dak Prescott, not Kirk Cousins, the mid quarterbacks of the NFC, but Jalen Hurts, the best quarterback in the NFC, and Justin Fields is going to move past him. And I don't know where this is coming from. I don't know why Justin Fields is getting crowned in this category with an MVP candidate that just took his team to the Super Bowl. Justin, let me start here with the Bears fans on this topic. And this is where I'm going to end it, honestly. It's all that needs to be said. Let Justin Fields accumulate 2,500 plus passing yards in a season. And then maybe we can talk. Let Justin Fields lead his team to a winning record. A winning record, 9-8. Let's do 9-8, like Jalen Hurts' first season as a starter without AJ Brown.
Oh, made the playoffs, right?
Starter made the playoffs, winning record.
Yeah.
Let Justin Fields do that, and then we might be able to have a conversation.
Yeah.
I just thought that was interesting. I don't know why this is sparking up as a point of conversation. I don't know why an ascension like Jalen Hurts is now expected for other quarterbacks. Not everybody is built the same. And that's just the simple truth to it, man. I don't know why we're crowning this dude.
Listen, you know how I feel about Justin Fields.
Yeah. You're a lot lower on him than myself, so I can only imagine how you feel.
Yeah. Listen, I'm not saying the addition of DJ Moore and a second year is going to help Justin Fields, but there's a lot to unpack with what James Jones said. And this dude is such a clown that I hate that we're even doing this, but it's going to be fun to do this anyway. So here you go. Okay. And this dude played in the NFL, mind you. Like this. Oh, okay. You hit on the one thing about let's at least see him win 8 or 9 games, maybe get to a playoff and then get his ass kicked and learn from that. So one of the things James Jones said was Justin Fields didn't have AJ Brown. He didn't have Devontae Smith. He didn't have Dallas Goedert. He didn't have that offensive line. What did Jalen Hurts have his rookie year?
Right.
Well, no, well, his first starting year, not his rookie year. Excuse me.
Yeah.
What did Jalen Hurts have there? A rookie in Devontae Smith? Oh, he won 9 games and went to the playoffs. Justin Fields do that last year? No. So when Jalen Hurts didn't have all those weapons that you so kindly laid out for everyone as he did last year, he still won 9 games, was above 500, and made the playoffs and took on Tom Brady. He struggled. He bounced back. He got help. Scotty, the other thing he said, he brought up one thing. He brought up a couple things. His rushing ability is better than Jalen Hurts. Maybe I could give you that. Maybe the speed and the athleticism and the quickness. Maybe he's faster than Jalen Hurts. He's more explosive than Jalen Hurts.
Yeah.
Maybe I that's fine. The arm talent.
Yeah, that's the joke.
My man, you played with Aaron Rodgers. You of all people should know what premier star arm talent looks like. And I'm not even saying Jalen Hurts is star arm talent, but he took a hell of a leap last year. He threw the best deep ball in the National Football League. His growth from year 1 to 2, arm talent wise, was historic. You saw him in the postseason. You saw him in the Super Bowl. His leap was historic. Now let's look at Justin Fields. Well, Jalen Hurts last year, 66.5% completion percentage. Justin Fields, his rookie year, under 59% in 12 games played. Last year, 60% in 15 games played. His rookie year, touchdown interception ratio, 7-10. Last year, better, but 17-11. 2,200 passing yards last year, 1,800 his rookie year in 12 games. Now, here's the stat that always makes me laugh, Scotty. So he played 15 games. He was hurt for 2. Justin Fields attempted as many passes as Jalen Hurts effing completed last year. Let me say that again. Justin Fields threw the ball as many times as Jalen Hurts completed a pass last year. Justin Fields threw 318 passes. Jalen Hurts completed 306. Don't look at a camera. Don't look at me. Don't have that job if you're going to tell people that Justin Fields has more arm talent than Jalen Hurts. It's views, it's clicks, it's getting people like you and I to do what we're doing right now, and we're talking about it, and we're name-dropping them and blah.
Yeah.
It's probably the goal. But that's why I can't watch those shows anymore. I used to watch ESPN all the time. I used to watch FS1 all the time in the mornings in college and high school.
Yeah.
I can't do that anymore because nothing's serious. And it's not like you could argue it's Philly hate. It's to get Philly fans riled up. But why? I'm just laughing at you. My team went to the Super Bowl last year and went head-to-head with Patrick Mahomes. My team's the favorite to get back and win the Super Bowl this year. You're not riling me up. You're just making me laugh at you because I can't take you seriously.
Yeah. It's as simple as that. I won't watch the show. I see clips like that, I won't watch it. It doesn't attract me to the show. Like, it deters me. So you can get my clicks on Twitter and your impressions from the video clips that you put out, but I'm not going to go
FS1
and
will
turn the
not be
show
getting
on.
my view.
Yeah, no, not at all, man. The Justin Fields stuff is a joke. That is funny. You pointed out the completions, man. The arm talent. It's just like, there is nothing that you can even pull from tape that you could say, oh, well, look at this throw from Justin Fields compared to Jalen. No, look at the throws Jalen Hurts made just in the Super Bowl. I mean, it's blasphemy, man. It is. It really is. And you have people discrediting Jalen Hurts for not winning the Super Bowl. Like, that's the argument that we see on Twitter is like, your quarterback's ringless.
He didn't beat Patrick Mahomes.
Like, what? That's the problem with this conversation.
Those are the same people that will have Josh Allen as the second best quarterback in the National Football League.
Yeah. But you see, it's funny, man. And that's the problem with this combo is Justin Fields, you can compare him. You can predict that he's going to ascend.
The situations are very similar. They are eerily similar. Their style of quarterback, their struggles in their first year, the lack of help. Oh, now they go out and get DJ Moore. The situations are similar. They're not the same.
They're not, man. They're not. I get the idea, but right now you're talking about Jalen Hurts, who was voted as the second best quarterback in the NFL by his peers. And you're hoisting, Justin Fields. Like, no, we're not doing. Like, we can talk about Josh Allen and Joe Burrow and Trevor Lawrence and Justin Herbert. We're not talking about Justin Fields in this conversation.
What's next? CJ Stroud or Bryce Young struggle this year.
It'll be Bryce Young.
They go get a wide receiver one, and now they're the next Jalen Hurts because does it just trickle on down? Like you said,
it was a historical ascension as a passer for Jalen Hurts from his year one as a starter to his year two as a starter. That doesn't make it just this normal thing. It was historical. That's the point.
Yep.
I had to talk about that, man, because that's something that has been really bothering me.
It's a good point.
It makes me
sick. Any other time they post stupid, asinine, stupid clips, we'll get on here and
rip them apart.
We'll talk about it a little bit, man. But as far as that show getting any views, it ain't coming from me. If other people want to watch it on their spare time, go right ahead. But that's what you're getting. Because I'll look at it from the other side of things. I don't like Shady on the show when I see his clips.
Yeah.
Because he's too much of a homer. Like don't get me wrong. I love Shady and I love that he still loves Philadelphia and the Eagles, but he's too much.
He is a homer.
Of a homer.
Yeah.
So I'll be fair with you. I'm not just coming at James Jones for hating on the Eagles. I think it's bad the other way around too.
I agree, man. I agree. You just can't find any middle ground with these shows. I think that's the problem.
Not at all. Not at all. And lack of research is what I'll say.
Yeah.
That is going to wrap up this edition of the Phaithful Fanatics Show, guys. Don't forget to subscribe to all of the new YouTube channels. This one, the DSM-Philadelphia one, DSM-NFL Turf Talk as well. We'll be back with you on Thursday night, giving you our top 10 trios around the league, as well as breaking down, what are we getting into, Scotty? The NFC. We just did the North. Maybe we'll do the South and just get that shit division out of the way.
Get that out of the way.
We'll be breaking down those on Thursday. We'll be back live Wednesday and Friday morning here on the Phaithful Fanatics Show as well. Subscribe. We appreciate you guys and have a great rest of your Monday.
Happy